The WTA had never seen anything like it. Ticket sales plummeted, viewership numbers crashed, and all eyes turned to one player, Eala. The 21-year-old Filipina sensation had become the most polarizing figure in tennis. Her historic Wimbledon run had captivated millions. Her growing star power had packed stadiums and shattered expectations, and now she was being blamed for the WTA's biggest loss ever. A massive fine, a final warning, and a tennis world left stunned. But was the punishment fair, or was Yala being made a scapegoat for the sport's own failures? The WTA had been monitoring the numbers closely. What they uncovered sent alarm bells ringing throughout the organization. Ticket sales had declined across several tournaments. Viewership dropped sharply in markets that had once been dependable. Sponsors began questioning their commitments, and the governing body desperately wanted answers. Before long, the spotlight fell on one name, Yala. The 21-year-old Filipina sensation had become one of the biggest talking points in women's tennis, but not everyone viewed her rise the same way. While she had climbed to a career-high world no. 28 following her historic Wimbledon run, critics argued that one major weakness continued to hold her back on the sport's biggest stages. At Wimbledon, Yala averaged a modest first-serve speed of just 86 miles per hour, while her second serve averaged only 75 miles per hour, well below tournament standards. Her first serve percentage stood at 63%, and she won only 47.2% of points behind her second serve. Even more concerning, she ranked 128th on the WTA Tour in points won behind her first serve. The numbers painted a difficult picture, and the criticism followed quickly. Martina Navratilova, the 9-time Wimbledon champion, highlighted a technical issue in Eala's game. Only a third of her serves are slices to the backhand, particularly in the ad court. She is not using her leftiness to her advantage nearly as much as she can. Former world no. 9 Andrea Petkovic shared a similar concern. I think it's one thing, and unfortunately it's a big thing, the serve. She has those weeks where she can't make first serves, and the second is very attackable. Off the court, however, Eala's impact was impossible to ignore. Wherever she competed, Filipino flags filled the stands. Every victory sparked celebrations across social media, and whenever her tournament ended, the atmosphere around the event noticeably changed. The shift became especially visible at Wimbledon. After Eala's fourth-round loss to Jasmine Paolini, ticket prices reportedly dropped as low as £6. Sections that had recently been packed with passionate supporters suddenly looked half-empty. What many began calling the Eala effect had revealed two very different sides. It energized tournaments while she was competing, but interest appeared to cool once she was gone. For the WTA, that raised serious concerns. For years, the organization believed fans followed the sport itself above everything else, but Eala's rapid rise suggested something different. Increasingly, many viewers were tuning in specifically to watch her. And when she was no longer in the draw, a noticeable portion of that attention disappeared as well. The pressure inside the organization had been building for months. The proposed merger with the ATP had been placed on indefinite hold, financial pressures were increasing, and cost-cutting measures had already begun. Fewer operational staff were attending tournaments, while concerns grew inside the locker room that future prize money could eventually be frozen or reduced. For Eala, though, the criticism had become deeply personal. Rather than respond emotionally, she addressed the concerns with calm confidence. "I know I work a lot on my serve. People don't see all that work behind the scenes," she said after her Wimbledon run. "So when I step on the court and have a bad serving day, it doesn't affect me too much because I know I gave my best. I work hard and won't let the criticism affect me." Despite her response, the debate refused to fade. Inside the WTA offices, one conclusion had already taken shape. Someone they believed had to pay. The announcement came without warning. The WTA had issued a massive fine to Eala, citing violations that had rarely, if ever, been enforced against a player of her stature. The tennis world was stunned. Players, analysts, and fans immediately began asking the same question: what had Eala actually done to deserve such severe punishment? The official explanation offered little clarity. The WTA referred to conduct detrimental to the sport and failure to meet media obligations. But behind those carefully chosen words, many believed there was a much bigger story unfolding. In the months leading up to the controversy, Eala had become increasingly vocal about the challenges facing professional players, particularly those lower down the rankings. Ahead of Roland Garros, she made her position clear: "I am on the player's side, and I will always be on the player's side. I think we really need to appreciate the hard work that we go through. I know the work that needs to be put in to get at this level." Her comments quickly resonated throughout the locker room. Aryna Sabalenka had already been pushing for improved player compensation, warning that athletes could consider a boycott if meaningful changes were not made. Coco Gauff and Elena Rybakina also voiced support for greater player representation. By aligning herself with that movement, Eala suddenly found herself at the center of a much larger conversation. To many observers, the fine felt like more than a disciplinary action. It looked like a warning. The issue, they argued, was no longer just about rules or obligations, it was about influence. For years, the governing body had shaped the sport's biggest stars, deciding how the game was presented to the world. But Eala's meteoric rise suggested that fans were choosing their own icons, independent of the traditional system. That shift challenged the balance of power. There was also an undeniable business dimension. Following Eala's Wimbledon exit, attention surrounding the tournament cooled dramatically. Empty seats, falling ticket prices, and declining viewership became impossible to ignore. Whether connected or not, many believed the organization was struggling to explain a trend that had exposed just how valuable one player had become. The reaction to the decision was immediate. Fans across the world flooded social media in support of Eala. The Filipino community, more than 110 million strong, rallied behind its rising star, while analysts openly questioned whether the punishment had been fair or proportionate. Instead of calming the controversy, the decision only intensified it. The WTA suddenly found itself facing difficult questions from every direction, struggling to justify a move that many viewed as excessive. Eala, meanwhile, refused to let the situation define her. Rather than respond with anger, she once again focused on her game. "I know I'm working really hard on my serve. People don't know how much I'm working on my serve. So when I go out and I have a bad serving day, it's okay because I know I gave it my all." Her words reflected the same composure that had characterized her rise from the very beginning. Still, the message behind the controversy seemed impossible to ignore. Many believed the WTA was sending a signal that challenging the established system would come with consequences. And Eala, fresh off a historic Wimbledon campaign and a career-high ranking of world number 28, had unexpectedly become the face of that debate. By the end of it all, one question echoed louder than ever. Had the WTA gone too far? The controversy surrounding the fine was only one part of Alex Eala's growing burden. With every tournament, the expectations placed upon her became even heavier. By this stage of her career, Eala had earned a reputation as one of tennis' most dangerous giant killers. Her remarkable Wimbledon campaign proved she could challenge the biggest names on the sport's grandest stages. Against then-reigning champion Iga Swiatek in the third round, Eala attracted an astonishing 91.51% of the total bet count between the two players, the highest of any of her Wimbledon matches. In the round of 16 against world number 17 Jasmine Paolini, she still accounted for 84.64% of the total player bet count. Those numbers reflected something much bigger than tennis. The Filipino community wasn't simply following the tournament, they were following Alex Eala. Interestingly, that same level of confidence didn't always appear when she faced lower-ranked opponents. Against world number 75 Renata Zarazua in the opening round, Eala accounted for only 9.63% of the total player bet count. In the second round against Australia's Maya Joint, that figure rose to just 41.95%. The contrast was striking. Filipino fans seemed to believe in Eala the most when she stood across the net from the sport's biggest stars. Yet her results against lower-ranked opponents painted a far more complicated picture. At the 2026 Miami Open, she suffered a difficult 6-0, 6-2 defeat to 14th seed Karolina Muchova. The statistics highlighted the difference between the two players. Muchova captured 80% of her first serve points, while Eala managed just 39%. On return, the Czech star won 64% of Eala's first serve points compared to Eala's 20%. It marked the second consecutive WTA 1000 tournament where a Czech opponent ended her campaign. Earlier at Indian Wells, Linda Noskova had also stopped Eala, extending her record against Czech players to a frustrating 0-12. Once again, attention shifted toward the same weakness that critics had repeatedly identified: her serve. According to WTA statistics, Eala's first serve percentage stood at 65.5%, while her second serve points won remained at 45.7%. Martina Navratilova believed technical adjustments could unlock another level in Eala's game. "She needs a bigger serve and bigger kick. She's got the slice-down pat. Just believe and hold her ground. She is slight of build, so it's harder for her to absorb all that pace. But I think she can beef up a little and punch up that serve." Laura Robson shared a different perspective. With Eala lacking overwhelming power on serve, Robson questioned whether relying on wide left-handed angles was the best strategy. "For me, I don't know if I want to see more left-handedness from Eala, especially when she doesn't have the pace on the ball." The opinions varied. The conclusion, however, remained the same. Everyone agreed her serve was the area that needed the greatest improvement. Eala never dismissed those criticisms. Instead, she acknowledged them while making it clear that countless hours of work were happening away from the cameras. "I know I'm working really hard on my serve. People don't know how much work goes into improving it behind the scenes. When I step onto the court and have a difficult serving day, I don't let it discourage me because I know I've prepared the best I can." Her response reflected the mindset that had carried her this far. Still, the pressure refused to ease. Every match now carried the expectations of an entire nation. Every defeat became headline news. Every weakness was analyzed from every possible angle. And with the weight of a massive, fine, relentless public scrutiny and growing expectations all arriving at the same time, Alex Eala found herself facing the toughest challenge of her young career, not just proving she belonged among the world's best, but learning how to carry the enormous spotlight that now followed her everywhere.